That just looks so weird because it does it after. Sorry. Okay, go ahead. This is the loud, quiet, living the empty nest.
Hey everyone, welcome back to The Loud Quiet, episode 52. Thanks again for listening. And if you haven't told somebody, tell somebody. We've seen some growth lately, and it's kind of nice. So y'all are talking to folks. So thank you for that. We appreciate it. And as always, please let us know what's on your minds too, so that we can learn from you. And also, who knows, might make it into an episode someday.
Yep. So, yeah, sorry.
Are our minds just not
I
quite
don't
as sharp
know.
this
I
morning?
don't know. But I mean, we've had a busy weekend, which we'll talk about. It's been fun, but it's been busy. And it is holiday weekend, which is so funny because, like I said, I had, several appointments this week. And every time, oh, what are your plans for the holiday weekend? I'm just like, oh, it is a holiday weekend. When you don't have kids in school, high school, public school,
Mhm.
it's I don't even think about the holidays because our work schedules are kind of
It's that
different.
part too. It's
And
not
so,
just the
yes, because
kids.
we're not corporate. I mean, I am officially off on Monday, but am I still going to the gym?
Right.
Yeah, I'm just not getting paid to go that day. But,
Right.
it is different that we're not, ooh,
Oh, I get a day away
yeah.
from the office or
Hmm.
that kind of thing.
So,
And because I might go in, but nah, I'm going to probably end up coming home. Let's be honest.
yeah. So, anyways, I hope everyone is enjoying their Labor Day weekend. If you had fun plans or anything, um, we thought this week we would talk about the idea of reinventing yourself
Mhm.
or reinventing things together, which we are kind of embarking on. Um, last night when we were talking about it, I said I've actually, and you have as well, and I think probably most people now. Some people have been in the same career, the same place, their entire grown adult
Correct.
lives.
You think
But
about especially professionals, or if you were a physician, if you're an attorney, if you are.
well, yeah, but even the generation of my parents,
Oh, yeah, let's talk.
they stayed at companies. My dad stayed at his company from the time he was in college to the time he
Correct.
retired.
That doesn't happen
Um,
anymore.
you know, my Ashley has been with Hall since 20
Well, I
something
stand
years.
corrected.
So
Ashley is
so
definitely
there
an
are,
anomaly.
yeah, there are people that have done that. We just have not. I talked about how I went from, or last night when we were talking, full time stay at home mom into the fitness
Hmm.
world. And that was 14 years ago,
Well,
almost
you did
15.
transformations even before that. You started out, your career was in nursing, then you became
Yeah,
a flight attendant,
right.
then you became a stay at home mom. And so
Yes.
you've always done
Uh-huh.
transformations.
Yeah. I wasn't going back that far, but
But it
yes,
shows even
sure.
in your core.
But, and so now and you have done the same. You went from corporate world to wanting to own your own business, which
Right.
you did.
Yeah. That's sort of a transformation, or as a maybe I always never really fit in the corporate world. And so it was more of a discovery of who I actually was kind of
Hmm.
transformation, which a lot of transformations are, is
Sure.
it's not changing into something, but rather allowing you to be what you actually already are.
Yeah. And I think when an opportunity is presented that you can choose to do that because sometimes you just
Right.
can't. And so when an opportunity presents itself, you and I have both been on board. And as a couple, both people need to be on board if you're planning on
You sure hope that's the
staying
case.
together.
We've been very good about that. And if we don't come to that agreement, then we don't do what that thing is.
Hmm.
Typically, I mean, one person might lead the other. There might be a one of us might say, I don't know, but okay, I'll do it. That kind of stuff. So that's not I'm agreeing, but rather let's see where it goes. As long as though there's that agreement to give it that shot,
Hmm.
kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't even think about if there's things that I don't think that any of the true reinventing things we've done so far have failed or caused.
Well, I think you know what, and this is kind of almost a business cliche, but it depends on your definition of fail. Because, yeah, there have been moments in my business of zero revenue. Yet each one of those moments has been a learning
Right.
opportunity. So it's, oh, fail fast, learn from your failures, all that kind of stuff. But there's some truth to it. So as long as you continue to learn, then you've actually never failed. It just depends
Right.
on what that definition of fail is.
Well, and I think anytime you're, and I'm using the buzzword reinvention, reinventing, anytime you're doing that, you have to go into it knowing it's not going to be awesome all the time.
Absolutely.
There's going to be difficult things, but that's where you reframe, which is another popular word these
Oh,
days.
I didn't know all these re words.
So,
Well, and you said go into it knowing that it's not necessarily always going to be good. I think you also have to go into it being willing to realize the idea may not work,
yeah.
and be willing to accept that and discover that sooner than later, so that with the right balance of pushing through. And that's not something that's scientific. It's not something like we could say, okay, so after 4 weeks of your idea, but rather it's just knowing, do I need to keep the endurance up? Is this one of those hard periods? Or nope, this didn't work, pivot, move forward.
And I think that one of my podcasts that I listened to this week, they were actually talking about some of that because in the jobs that some of them have, there are contracts that sometimes don't get renewed.
Yeah.
And talking about how watching some of the people in the industry who choose to still act like they're still doing that job, and then their houses are going into foreclosure
Oh,
because
really?
because they're still acting like they're still living
Yeah.
like they have that paycheck coming in, and it's not.
Yeah. That's
It's hard
yeah.
to
Well, think about it in our situation. Let's say that
pivot.
we made, and I'm not using real numbers here, of course, but let's say we make X dollars and suddenly we make 20% of X dollars.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to look at you and go, hey, we're going to need to sell the house. Hey, we're going to need to move. Well, that's the same thing, but we're going to need to not do the things that we do. That's a hard conversation from spouse to spouse.
And I liked what one of them said this week. He said, because most of them had other things going on as well. They weren't just on reality TV. But he said, the moment that I found out my contract was not, that the show was not coming back, everything that money went towards, no more. He said, I sold the car that I bought with that money. I did, change this and change that. So I think you have to be realistic too.
That's a discipline that 99% of people probably don't have. I'd even point to us. We've had revenue highs, we've had revenue lows, and we tend to stay pretty steady stream in how we approach life. That's a very bold move,
Yeah.
and actually one that I kind of admire.
Yeah, no, and it was a very good piece of advice for anyone. Even one of my girlfriends this week, her daughter has already gotten a job out of college. She has her salary, and then she gets a monthly stipend as well. And her mom told her, don't put that into the amount because you never know, the next job you go to,
Oh, yeah.
you may not have that monthly stipend. So I was like, that's really good
Yeah.
advice for the kids that may not understand some of that stuff.
And that's in that same vein, whether it's the stipend or whatever, but it's live below your means. The millionaire next door. Are you oh shoot, now I can't remember the phrase. But basically, are you an over accumulator of wealth or an under accumulator of wealth? And basically, it's if you make this kind of money, well, you better spend less than this kind of money,
yeah.
regardless of what this kind of money is.
Yeah. So it's not a financial episode.
Yeah, how did this happen?
I don't know. We just went down that because that's just us. But anyways, I did. So we are talking about reinventing. So I just pulled a definition that I found that said reinventing yourself is a process of personal growth that involves becoming a better version of yourself. It can involve making changes to your life, such as adopting a new style, taking up a new hobby, or changing careers. It can also involve changing how you think and behave. So I think all of those kind of go together. I like the adopting a new style, which
It's
I
interesting that's the first one they chose because I
well,
think that's probably like the mildest of what's up there.
right, but that's probably the easiest to do. You can chop your hair. You
I
can,
see.
you
Well,
know,
some of
uh,
us can.
it. You can go get hair implants. I mean, you can
Is that a
wear.
request?
No,
All right, well,
no.
I'm getting on a plane to
You
Turkey
can
today.
wear a toupee. I mean,
Okay.
you.
Oh, I'm
But
gonna extract that piece, and that's what I'm gonna carry around. Well, she told me
but
I could
that
wear a
is,
toupee.
oh Lord, no. But that is interesting that that is the first one, and it makes me think of fast fashion and how. I mean, I love fast fashion because then you can. I know
Did you
that's a
see me
no no,
grimace?
but I love it because then you can buy things and yes, change your wardrobe every with the trends. So, anyways, but
No,
yeah,
we're not. It's not an environmental podcast
no, no,
either.
no, 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 no. Um, so, but the one I think that we are focusing on right now. Now we did one. We took up a new hobby. This was a new hobby for us
Absolutely.
starting a year ago. Now we're not changing careers. We're just
Boy, I don't know.
how do you what would you categorize it as?
It's well, it certainly.
I guess I'm changing
Yeah.
careers and I didn't know I was. I'm not leaving, Ashley. I'm not leaving yet, but
So this is semantics. I think it's an evolution rather than a change. Because when I think of change, it'd be like going from consulting to pharmaceutical sales or something that's just completely. But it's semantics. What what was the realization? Actually, let me just say what it is, and then talk about kind of how I and then we got to this point. Is it was a we're going to inside of my business use podcasting as the primary revenue generator and not sponsorships of podcasts, although that's one of the
yes,
revenue
we would
streams.
welcome any sponsorships.
That's true. The one that we're talking about is CX
Yes.
Passport, which is my business podcast. It was the realization that I had a couple of brands ask me, "Hey, would you do something like this at our event? So come and do CX Passport at our event." And it over time sort of evolved into, okay, we're creating CX Passport live and going to do this for events. Events will hire me and the podcast to create episodes with a mixture of their guests, a mixture of my guests on site for a myriad of reasons. And I'm not going to make this an advertisement here in the Loud Quiet, but there's reasons, monetary and engagement, that businesses would want to hire CX Passport Live for their event.
You should put I didn't put the logo up here, but you should put the logo
Yeah, all right, I'll
in
throw
the
that in. Yeah,
post.
I'll
Yeah.
do that.
Because hey, I worked on that. that was so I am now an employee of
Well,
EX
wait,
for
hang on. Don't
CX.
say that on the record. You are not
Oh.
an employee because I don't have any payroll taxes to pay for
Oh.
you or anything like that yet. We are exploring
Okay.
having you, but you have started to work for the business.
Yes. And so,
Now, all IRS records aside, your first day of work was
well, yeah, I forgot I'd put up the five kind of things that they gave you to do your
okay. So let's leave your first day of
transformation.
work as a tease because as I glance at this, and I haven't seen this before today, you're just showing it now.
Yeah.
A lot of this is exactly why I, and now dragging you into it, we are making this
Yeah.
transformation.
Mm-hmm.
Because I looked at what, number one, acknowledge your achievements and successes. Where was the revenue coming from? It was sponsorship of the podcast. Where was the praise coming from? It was coming from the podcast.
Yeah.
The actual consulting work was boring the spit out of me. And I
Mm-hmm.
was ready to acknowledge the achievements and successes in the
Mm-hmm.
podcasting space.
Yeah. The second one is cultivate curiosity and embrace lifelong learning, which I think is yes good. You need to keep your brain active and keep keep learning, and that could be with anything. That doesn't have to be just career. That could be just cultivating curiosity about different types of people, different cultures, different, traveling, everything that we do, you
I think
know.
that's a big one for mental health, not
Yeah,
mental
yeah.
health,
Brain.
brain health,
Yes.
right? That not that my mom was not curious and
Oh,
embrace life.
yeah.
She did.
Sometimes
So
you,
it
yeah.
sometimes just biology is biology. It is known though that can help stave off dementia and other
Yep.
diseases.
Number 3 is listen to your feelings and attune to your desires. Well, I mean, we
This
talked
one
about,
that I
yeah.
already kind of talked about. I won't belabor the point, but and I listened to other podcasts that talked about things like this of where was my energy in the morning? And I'm not talking esoterically. I mean, literally, just where was I excited about doing something? It wasn't consulting, it was podcasting, even some of the boring stuff, and even the lifelong learning. How many YouTube rabbit holes have I gone down around cameras and microphones and sound and all that, which to many people would be boring as anything. I'm loving it. And so that's been the interesting.
I like 4
Yeah.
because I think this is always something that gets left out when things are given to you or you have achieved something, is the practice gratitude and reframe appreciation. And that word reframe again, bad things happen.
Hmm.
And yeah, I'm not trying to be all Pollyanna, but sometimes out of tragic things, good things can come. And so sometimes it is nice to reframe to a place of appreciation rather than wallowing in what's going on.
Yeah, and I know what you're alluding to. I think but I also know that I can speak to that the consulting pipeline had dried up. And that could be something that I could be very bitter about, that there was not revenue from consulting. Well, actually, the reframe appreciation is thank God there was no revenue, because what was I doing for a year and a half? Working for a client that great people, but the work was not enjoyable. But I was doing it because the revenue was there. You took that needle of revenue out, and suddenly we can make this change. So instead of being unhappy about that, I reframe that into thank goodness
Yeah.
that happened.
And then number 5 is embrace small changes with an open heart. Um, that one could be just everyday life. That doesn't have to necessarily revolve around a transformation, but
You know what that one speaks to me, as I see this again for the first time for me, is it when someone's choosing to go into a transformation, the temptation to be, all right, this big thing I'm going to do, and it can be frustrating if the big thing doesn't come to fruition right away. But embrace those small pieces along the
no way.
way, and be happy for the small pieces that you know are building towards that more grand transformation that you seek to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was just a little thing that I found. But yes. So here's my
Well, yeah, let's
first day
restate it. Yeah,
first day at the office.
this is Clancy's first day at the office.
The lighting is really good in your office because you have that window right there.
I do have that window, and then certainly off camera here for my
Yes.
podcast, I've got the ring lights and all that as well. It was fun. You why don't you talk about this, because you actually came up with the idea of how I had said I think we should work together in the office. We'd already decided for you to work inside the business, and I'd said I think we do better in the office because we get distracted at home. You came up with this
So,
idea.
well, yes, because for those of you who know me or listen, I am a fitness instructor. I work at a gym. So I don't, I mean, I wear my workout clothes, no makeup, hair pulled back every day to work.
Right.
That's just how it's been for the past 15 years. So I don't I don't like it. I do like putting myself together, but I don't want to do that on the daily. So we tend to go out on Friday. I don't.
Just keep going.
We
It just made me tickle.
we tend to
chuckle.
go out on Friday evenings. That's usually our pattern. And so I just said, okay, I'll come into the office on Fridays afternoon because then I will be dressed for us to then go out,
That's right.
right? So that's how that
And
came about.
where I work has several entertainment and dining
Yes, yes,
options that are
yes.
walkable distance as well, or reasonably close
Yes.
too. So it was a and when you said that, I had this wonderful like urban lifestyle vision of, you leave the office and you go to your restaurant and the walkability like a New York and that sort of stuff. And well, it may not always be like that, but I love the idea of we're walking out of the office to
Now,
something social.
side note.
Yeah. Which no, let's
No,
see
no,
who's
no.
saying it first.
Oh no, I'm talking about what the shoes I wore.
Oh,
That's what I'm talking about.
okay.
So, oh no, you can talk about how I was ready to be done with work. Um, so I bought when Tanner and I were out shopping. I bought these cute jeans from PacSun. Well, of course, they're made for someone who's like 5'7". So yes, I have to wear a taller shoe with them. Again, fitness instructor. I wear tennis shoes every day, and I have a awesome sneaker
Yeah,
collection
your style is
that
a
I
sneaker style. You're
yeah.
not a heels girl. You're
So, and I do like a wedge, but this shoe is a little bit higher and not as supportive. I destroyed my body hurt so bad on Saturday, and all we did was walk from your office
wasn't far.
to the bar, back to your office. Now, into HEB was a lot too, but yeah, I never again. I was like, I can't wear those shoes again. I was dying.
Going with the urban style, you need to be like the working girl. What was that? Where you,
Well,
you
yeah,
put your
but
little tennis shoes in the bag.
but
and
they
you-
wear them. But they wear that stuff to.
I
I'm
know.
not gonna put on my tennis shoes to go
Right.
out. I mean, I do all the time, but I had my outfit on.
Right.
So, anyways, side note. Yeah, I can't wear those shoes anymore. So.
Yeah, so you had come down there around.
I just put another picture in there, but yeah, it's just another one of us.
Oh,
in
good,
the
yeah.
office, so.
Well, you'd come down there at 2:00, and we were jamming out some stuff, but there's plenty more to do. And what I discovered very quickly, I think we probably could do a whole episode of several weeks from now around what is it like to work together as a couple, because we've said from the beginning, oh no, we're not working together. Like years ago, we just knew that our marriage works really well. We're not sure how well we work together as coworkers. We'll see. But we're doing it. And already in the first day, I realized there were things that I knew I wanted it to be this way. And you suggested an alternate way, and it was so much better. And one of the things that you don't get as an independent consultant, a business of one, is that kind of push and pull business phrase.
Well, collaboration.
Yeah, well, but yes, collaboration,
Yeah.
but more of a, hey, no, this idea, no, this idea over here. And you were right. And it reinforced that you're going to bring things to this business that I can do and you're better at. And so letting go of what I know I can do to allow someone who's better at it to do it instead.
Well, I think too what you just said, the point of we always said no, I don't think we could work together. I think now is the right time because I'm not. Yes, you're the dad. You helped raise the children, but I
gotcha.
was the mom
Yeah,
at
no
home
caveat,
with them
yeah.
all. You know,
Yeah.
so I don't have that anymore. So I think now, because there would have just been too much tension and other stuff going on, but I think now that we don't have that focus, I think now is probably the ideal time for us to be able to do something together. So,
And we did have our first kind of moment of, I'm going to call it comically disagreement. I was like, all right, well, that's great. No, we knocked this part out. Let's sit on, because it was a creative idea, and instead of going to execution and purchase of that creative idea, we wanted to sit on it. And then I agree with that's the right choice. There were other things that we could get done, and you said, "What are you talking about? It's 4:00. I'm done."
it was 4 o'clock on a Friday. Yeah, I'm done.
It was the funniest first day of work. It's 4:00. I'm done. So we'll have to work on employee guidelines and expectations. We'll work on your performance appraisal.
Okay, thanks. So,
However, I did like that the employee did say, no, it's 4 o'clock, let's go. And so we did go out. So at least with this employee, it's something that I want to do.
yeah. And it was funny because we were, talking to Tanner on the way there. He had just called us to tell us how his week had gone. And, he was like, well, what are y'all doing? And we told him, he said, oh, okay. And, I had invited him. I said, do you want to come over Sunday for grilling and everything? He said, oh, I have like 3 fantasy football groups that I have to meet with. And so, but then he said, but if y'all want to come down here tonight, we can go out. And you and I were like, and I did it. I felt it. The mom guilt set in. And so I said, well, we'll touch base with you after we're done working. And so we got to the place that we were going to have a drink. And I texted him. I said, did you make plans? And he said, oh, yeah. Me and Julian and Fidel are going to the SMU bars. I was like, okay, good. Because I really, as much as I love Dallas, and yes, I would have gone, I just didn't want to drive down there. And
because we'd done it the week before.
Yeah.
And, well, this is going to be interesting with him this close.
I know. Yes.
We talked all last year about how great it was to be empty nesters, and there was no thought of, oh, well, let's just bip over and see our kids in Arizona. You can't do that.
Yeah, and I think that trying to figure out that balance, and I was telling you last night, I think now, again, with timing of starting something new, reinventing ourselves, I needed, I think, a year of being the empty nest, trying to figure out what exactly that meant. And, now our kids are, sophomore and first year of law school. We're kind of in that phase of, last year it was Tegan was a freshman. She wasn't super happy with her living
We were
arrangement.
very involved.
Tanner was a senior. We were trying to help him get through all of senior stuff and applying to law school and all that thing. So I think this year is kind of our, we can breathe a little bit more. We don't have so much focus on them.
Like, Tegan's on autopilot
Yes.
at this point, right? And Tanner's maturity level at law school is, because it's graduate school, it's just different.
Yeah.
He's on autopilot too, so our involvement
So I think
is minimal.
I think it's our time to figure out what we want to do next, and we are in the process of doing that. So,
And we are not just CX Passport Live, the Loud Quiet is growing as well, and we're looking for what that might be and some areas there as well. So it's really in this podcast space where the energy is and the transformation is.
yeah.
And so
and I think
when Netflix is ready to sign this as a series, we'll we'll be ready to ink that deal.
I am enjoying it more than I was excited to do it, but I think I really am enjoying it. And like we both have discovered, we're way more creative people than we kind of, I think, thought that we were.
There's a lot of truth to that, and a
so-
lot of truth to how let's just use, I'll be more broad. Everyone comes out of the womb creative. Think of what kids and the imaginary friends that they come up with and what they draw. And there's just this freedom of, they don't really care. They just create. They just let it explode and what the idea is going to be, and have almost no embarrassment or shame around what that idea. They just do it. And then slowly through the education system and then through the corporate world, your creativity is just squished to where it is, you think it's non-existent. It's just been suppressed for so long, and this has been our opportunity to free that creativity in a fun way. I'm glad to hear you're enjoying it. I am too. It'd be a big reveal if it was like, oh, we've done it for a year. It kind of sucks.
That's not happening, but we did, we had some fun this weekend. I mean, we had fun Friday too, but last night we had a lot of fun back out at PGA.
We keep talking about that, but it's been a great place to be.
It's because it's a venue out here and it's free. I mean, Emerald City, if you are a Dallas person, they are a corporation basically at
Yeah.
this point that has these bands, different groups that go out and do live events, and they're amazing. I mean, amazing. They bring horns, drums, the
The
singers, everything.
You can tell that they are so talented. They are so
Hmm.
tight. They rehearse so well. It is a continuous stream of music from the
Yes.
time they start to the first break. And we looked, it was an hour.
Yeah.
Then they take a break and do another
Yeah.
stream of music for 45 minutes.
And they're just very, I mean, it was a beautiful night again. We've really looked out having nice evenings up there. They're also very interactive with the crowd. If you're looking,
Yeah, if
this
you're
is JP with one of the singers came out, and it happened to be when Aaron and I had gone up to go to the restroom. We came back, and y'all showed us the picture. I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
So, but
That was fun. You know what?
Yeah.
I wonder if y'all had been there if because there was space. So who knows? Maybe
yeah.
your absence was required
Maybe
for this
so.
moment to
Yes.
happen.
But it was fun, and they just play great. There's our group that was there. They just play great music. They're fun. Everyone, I mean, like I said again, I've destroyed my body this weekend because the last two songs were Blink 182 and The Killers, and I was banging my head a little bit too much, I think. And so I woke up this morning. It's like, does your neck hurt? And you said, oh, yeah, it is a little stiff.
And you had asked if I had a voice left because I was scream singing. And
Yeah.
it was just
It
one
was
of those
fun.
kind of vibes.
Yeah, it was just a fun evening again. One of the reasons we do enjoy living out here, but
And it wasn't overly planned. It just was in that vein of empty nest, just being able to say yes.
yeah, so it was fun.
What are we doing next weekend?
Oh well, that's so the text because as we were talking, Tanner had made plans and so I was going back and forth. I said, okay, I said, let's plan for next week. And I was like, how about Friday? He said, oh, the SMU game is Friday. But then I said, okay, let's plan on Saturday then. And he said, I'll put it in my calendar. He said, my Outlook calendar is jam packed. Haha. I said, so busy.
The dude
That's
has found
Tanner.
Well, and he means that while that's not just social, it is
No,
social. It's
yeah.
heavily social. He's using that to balance, and thank goodness he's figured that part out.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of us that need to figure that out.
It seems like he's fallen into a good group of kids down there, and he's really. I don't know how many people enjoy law school, but he's really enjoying. That's right up his alley, and
That'd be interesting.
So it would be interesting to see how many people really.
Are you doing this because you know what
enjoyed
the end
it.
result will be, right?
Right.
Because that's
Mm-hmm.
and are you getting enjoyment out of this? You're right.
Yeah.
That percentage would be different.
Yeah, and Tegan's doing great. She enjoyed all of her first week of classes this week, and so everybody seems to be plugging along right now. We'll see when. I'm sure there will be a bomb dropped at some point. So
Let's call it a shoe. The other shoe will drop. Let's go with that.
all right. So there you go. We'll see how this week goes with
I was trying to let you start
my
it.
second day at work.
Yes. We'll see how your second day of work goes. It could provide even more stories for the loud, quiet, living the empty nest.